Progressives had a big night on Tuesday across the country. Sitting members of the Democratic Party lost their seats, a few of them in embarrassing fashion. But the race everyone is talking about, and rightly so, is the one in Michigan. Left-wing candidate Dr. Abdul El-Sayed beat Congresswoman Haley Stevens in a race that was much, much closer than everyone expected, making it the primary race to watch, which has now quickly become the midterm race to watch come November. There's a lot to unpack here, so this is the only thing we're going to talk about today in this episode, and I'll explain why. It's Thursday, August 6th, 2026. Welcome to Make It Make Sense. I'm Grant Hermes. Before we get going, we are just 2 weeks out from the end of the Make It Make Sense anniversary price lock sale. 2 years ago, I started this show with basically nothing but an idea and a dumpster fire logo. I wanted to bring you the news that you deserve. No corporate agenda, no algorithm driving coverage or outrage. Because of you, that's gone from a pretty rocky podcast, I'll be honest, to a twice-weekly breakdown of the biggest news stories, the Friday in-depth interviews with people who are shaping the top issues facing our country, weekly original reporting on the Make It Make Sense Substack, things you forgot from civics class, Make It Make Nonsense, and too long tuned out to keep track of all of it. That is something in your inbox if you're a subscriber every single day of the week. The price has been $5 a month since day one, but starting August 20th, new subscriptions move to $7 a month or $70 a year. If you log in before then, whether you're a longtime listener who's never gotten around to it or you're brand new, you can keep the original launch price. No catch, no fine print. Head to makeitmakesense.substack.com or get the link in the description. All right, let's get on with the show. On Tuesday night, all eyes were on Michigan, specifically the Senate race here. If you tuned into the live stream with myself, Mike Madrid, and Jeff Timmer, you'll know that we may have dipped out a little too early in that conversation. So the race was between Abdul El-Sayed and Congresswoman Haley Stevens. Before Democrats went to the polls to cast their primary votes, El-Sayed had a 15-point lead over Stevens. But throughout the night, he was only running consistently 2 points ahead and won the race by a single point, 48.5 to 47.5. So were the polls off by that much? Did Stevens do better than expected? Did El-Sayed's support just not show up? What happened here? Well, it's kind of hard to know because there aren't what are called exit polls from these races in a primary, but we do know a few things. First, Michigan is difficult to poll. It always has been. It's just one of those things. There's not a great singular pollster in the state of Michigan, which is kind of weird because it's such an important state. Also, people in the mitten state take their role as sort of a national bellwether and battleground state very seriously, which means they're engaged, but they're also sort of a little cagey. It's odd. Polling is also easier on and around college campuses, which are definitely more progressive than other places in any other state, so even the best pollsters can get thrown off if they over-poll those places, which it does seem like they might have done here. And the other thing here, too, that can change this is turnout. 1.5 million Democrats turned out to vote compared to about 900,000 Republicans. If more people turn out to vote than your poll suggests, the numbers don't exactly add up always. There are a bunch of people online claiming that a lot of Republicans crossed party lines to vote in Michigan's open primary is what it's called. It's when you can choose to vote for either party in the primary. You just have to stick to that party's ballot. They said that they were going to vote for Stevens or against El-Sayed. We don't really have evidence of that. Even if we did, it's hard to know those things. What we do have evidence of, though, is Republican enthusiasm to vote right now in general is low. And given the polling, Republicans would have wanted El-Sayed to win because the Republican Senate candidate, Mike Rogers, was losing to Stevens in the polls by 10 points in a head-to-head matchup. So it'd be a weird choice to want to vote for her. More likely, I think the polls overpolled suburban white voters who tend to be more progressive and underestimated skepticism about progressives among black voters, specifically in and around Detroit. Black Democratic voters are less progressive on the whole than their white counterparts. They're more Christian, they're more religious overall, and are frankly more reticent to vote for a Muslim candidate, even in a state like Michigan with the highest Arab American population in the country. There's also still a huge connection to what Obama did for the auto industry here in Detroit after the 2008 economic crash, and Haley Stevens played that connection up a lot in her campaign, and there were still some lingering resentments about El-Sayed's connection to the Uncommitted Movement during Kamala Harris's campaign. If you don't remember what that was the movement of delegates that urged them to vote uncommitted instead of for Harris at the Democratic National Convention to protest the Biden-Harris administration's stance on Gaza. The head of Detroit's NAACP, a guy named Reverend Wendell Anthony, a guy I know well and isn't one to suffer fools, told CNN many people still believe that El-Sayed was part of a lasting damage to the Harris campaign, a campaign that would have elected the second black president and the first woman to office. He said, had Kamala Harris been elected, we would not be in the mess we're in right now. Gaza would not be what Gaza is right now. The question is now, are you going to be more concerned about the West Bank than the west side of Detroit? And that's the question that is being posed to El-Sayed right now, and I think that has a much bigger part to play in why the race was so close than almost anything else. Not to scapegoat the black community in Detroit or in broader Michigan, I just think it was underserved in a lot of the polling. But that was then, and this is now. The Republicans have already staked out how they're going to fight this race heading to November, and yeah, it's pretty much what you might expect given the president's poll numbers and that people prefer Democrats to Republicans on almost every major issue. Immediately, the Republican Party, its leaders, its major donors, its candidates have turned to Abdul El-Sayed as a Muslim, and that should scare you as their tactic. The National Republican Senate Committee put out a press release using El-Sayed's full name, Abdul Rahman Muhammad El-Sayed, implying he's a dangerous foreigner even though he was born and raised in a suburb of Detroit. The president said he hates Jews, which El-Sayed said repeatedly on the campaign trail he does not, even though he has made it clear he's not a fan of the Israeli government or its actions against the Palestinian people. His opponent, Mike Rogers, a former congressman and now mostly full-time Florida resident despite running for office in Michigan, accused El-Sayed of supporting 9/11, which definitely isn't true. El-Sayed has campaigned several times with Hassan Piker, the popular political streamer who once said he thought the U.S. deserved 9/11, but has since apologized for that and tried to clarify his meaning. Erstwhile White House advisor, far-right conspiracy theorist, and out-and-out racist Laura Loomer likened El-Sayed on her show today to an invader, saying we cannot allow for the next 250, she means years in America, to be redefined by the Islamic communists and the eternal browning of America by third world illegal alien invaders who have no plan or desire to assimilate. Yeah, just let that wash over you for a second before I go on. This woman has access to the Oval Office. But again, El-Sayed was born in a place called Rochester Hills, Michigan. It is literally the most middle-of-the-road suburb you can picture. And then there's the group AIPAC. This is the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, which is the foreign influence, political funding PR group that spends hundreds of millions of dollars on U.S. politics every year to get politicians to support Israel's conservative government. They spent more than $30 million against El-Sayed or in support of Stevens in ads in Michigan in the primary and vowed to spend more money to, quote, ensure voters reject El-Sayed in November, essentially saying that they're going to back Mike Rogers. Now, El-Sayed was ready for this because partly it's kind of obvious, but this is what he said on Wednesday morning during his very small victory rally because this race wasn't really decided until like 4:30 in the morning.
And Michiganders are sick and tired of BS politics coming in to divide us when there's so much more we can unite to actually guarantee if we're willing to come together around it. So if all Mike Rogers got is that his name is Abdul and my name is Mike, you're going to be surprised how many people will be like, yeah, but that's the Abdul who wants to bring down the price of my groceries and gas and stop us sending money abroad and make sure that I got health care. So yeah, I like that Abdul over your Mike from Florida.
There is one more part of this that we haven't mentioned yet, and it's the backlash from inside the Democratic Party, because that is also coming hard and fast. I've found something that I need to stay sane in all this chaos is going to the gym. I go to the Kronk gym here in Detroit. If you're into boxing, that might mean something to you. If not, it's really just an excuse to hit something and, to get a workout in. But I also like to drink a protein shake afterwards to make sure that I'm staying healthy. I have spent years suffering through the worst kinds of protein shakes. Chalky, thick, it's like drinking wet cement. It's just awful. It's honestly worse than the workout. It's why I recently switched to Clear Protein. That's Clear with a K. It's a clear whey protein. They've got 2 great flavors right now, strawberry watermelon and wild blue raspberry. This stuff tastes like a juice drink instead of a milkshake gone wrong, you know what I mean? And it's not skimping to get there either. 20 grams of protein, no sugar, no lactose, so no bloat and no tummy troubles if that's a problem for you and you already know that's a deal breaker. If this sounds like something that you want after your workout, you can get your hands on a 20% off code right now. You can use MIMS25 at checkout. And full disclosure, I do get a cut of this commission, but you'll be helping out the show too and getting some great tasting protein for after your workout. Again, that's Clear Protein with a K. Use MIMS25 at checkout because drinking your protein shake shouldn't be the hardest part of your workout. All right, let's get back to the show. So, El-Sayed wasn't endorsed by the state's Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and the broader establishment wing of the Democratic Party. Those leaders did rush to get behind him after he won, so did Haley Stevens. Holding a seat in the Senate is vital for Democrats this year, so it makes sense that they decided that, primary voters made their choice and now they're going to back this candidate. But not everybody feels that way, because today we got some reporting from the New York Times that the establishment Democrat group Third Way is going to spend $15 million between now and 2028 to discredit democratic socialism. El-Sayed isn't technically a democratic socialist, but candidates who are, you'll hear them called DSA candidates, Democratic Socialists of America, they've had a pretty good year. Or rather, a few good years, whether it's Zohran Mamdani in New York, Chris Rabb in Pennsylvania back in May, Malat Kiros in Colorado in June, or Donovan McKinney in Detroit on Tuesday, who unseated a sitting congressman. The head of Third Way thinks these candidates pose a, quote, moral danger to the party, and told the Times, quote, it is deeply troubling to see radical far-left candidates winning in places that are potentially presidential swing states. He was specifically talking about El-Sayed. Now, the numbers aren't on their side here, at least not within the party itself. Younger, middle-class voters are drifting toward more progressive candidates in droves, specifically their message about affordability and health care. And it would seem at least that that's where the future of the party is, or at least a sizable portion of it is heading. And now there are always fights about the directions that parties need to go, especially after losing a major presidential election. The strange thing about this is having this fight in public in this way. The Democratic Party is $2 million in debt. They've been outraised by the Republican Party by $132 million, and Third Way is going to spend money not building intra-party infrastructure, but weaponizing it against other Democrats in a year when Democrats are going to have the wind at their backs. As a matter of political analysis, it's a choice. This kind of thing is normally what presidential primaries are for, so it wouldn't be unusual for us to see this kind of thing then. But in like the endorsement of a candidate, not in the off year, in the midterms, and not against an ideology of candidates that includes people like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who, by the way, is a leading presidential contender. Now, like I said at the beginning, what was the most important primary race in the country has now become the most important midterm race in the country for way more reasons than one, and I have no doubt that we will be talking about this again. And you're also going to hear about it tomorrow, which is why this episode is a little bit shorter, because you're going to get the full election night conversation with me, Mike Madrid, and Jeff Timmer. So if you missed the live stream, you're going to get a second chance to check it out. It's an inside look at how political nerds like us think and talk about these kinds of things in real time. So get ready for some hot takes. We're going to be wrong at certain points. And like I said, also at the beginning, we did dump out kind of early while El-Sayed was still ahead by like 20 points, where we thought the race was going to stay all night. And yeah, we were wrong. But there are still some really good pieces of wisdom from both Mike and Jeff, and maybe one or two from me in there. I don't want to toot my own horn a lot. but it's worth listening to. And that is it for today's episode, though. Please rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the Make It Make Sense Substack, where this week's piece of original reporting is all about the president's push to get U.S. automakers to start building new long-range precision missiles that we're nearly out of in the Iran war. The problem is, they're not saying yes, and even if they did, we couldn't build them fast enough. It's a complex, impossible, improbable rescue plan the president has for the Iran war, and it's only the beginning. That is just for paid subscribers. And don't forget, if you want to become one, if you're not yet, you have just 2 weeks left to get in at the original launch price of $5 a month or $50 a year. You can lock that in by August 20th to get access to original reporting, things you forgot from civics class, the entire backlog of every single episode of Make It Make Sense, Make It Make Nonsense, and Too Long Tuned Out. That is something in your inbox every single day of the week. And as always, share the show on social media. You can tag me at Grant Hermes on Twitter and Blue Sky in the Say So News app, and at Grant_Hermes on everything else. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm Grant Hermes, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.